Hello, this is Michael Hexter. Welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So, this episode I'm calling Would AOC or Bernie be the better 2024 progressive presidential candidate? So, I proposed in episode 115 that AOC should probably run for president in 2024. Um, Even if I proposed that even if she lost either in the primary or maybe in the general, um, though I think she would win in the general. I mean, again, there's so many different factors that come in there, but I would say there is a likelihood that she could win in the general. But anyway, um, even a run that fails in some stage of the that run, she would stir up if she designed the campaign in such a way that it focused on the issues and it became a we campaign, not just the we in saying, but also we in terms of a a platform campaign that publicized the platform and the service that she would offer in president as a president. Also, the whole nexus of down ballot candidates that she would be supporting with that platform, both in Congress and in even in state races and so forth and so on. That it could become a net positive, even though I don't know if she has the impulse to run for president, at least at that time in her career. But anyway, since then, Bernie Sanders has expressed, or there's been a rumor that he might also consider a run in 2024. So I'm here now weighing, and let me add a third sort of very contemporary and small, but nevertheless event that probably will not mean very much in a little bit of time. But they are having a rally on Sunday. I'm speaking on Friday night. They're having a rally on Sunday at a Staten Island fulfillment center for Amazon. Or labor for the Amazon labor union, and this has been a sort of a bone of contention with regard to how AOC handled supporting that unionization drive, and I also did an episode about that. So this is a Bernie Sanders rally that then AOC will be attending as well, and it seems as though the way was paved for this maybe reconciliation, you could say, by Bernie Sanders creating this opportunity, this solidarity rally with the Amazon workers there. So anyway, so putting that event aside for the time being, and let's just talk in general about 2024. I mean, Bernie Sanders will be 83 years old, okay, or 82 and change, or anyway, he will be in his mid 80s when he, if he were to win, when he would become president, which he would be by far the oldest president in the United States. And so, meanwhile, AOC would be the youngest president if she won. So it's in terms of age, at least, they're a study in contrasts, and they present sort of polar opposite problems in a way in terms of age, eligibility, or and this is where, I mean, you would expect someone in their mid 80s not to be performing in terms of their mental acuity at the same level as someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s. Now, Bernie Sanders has shown himself to be very acute and very clear-minded for someone he was an older candidate. He was the oldest candidate in 2020 as well. So he nevertheless didn't show any signs of being befuddled or having any mental issues, unlike both of his the main competitors, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So, but I mean, that's still 2 years ahead, um, and so anyway, but there's one thing. So, and AOC will be about almost she will just make the eligibility. She'll be 35, which is the youngest age one can be to be president in 2024, or actually early 2025 when she would be inaugurated. So the beyond that, I want to describe at least my perspective on both their politics and the contrast. And let's say if we take out the age component for the time being and just talk about them as political figures, what each of them bring to the table, and also what how they would each either benefit or not benefit the overall goals that they would want to have as progressive, as representing the leftward spectrum of the United States, and also just progress, social progress, and sustainability, all of the issues that that progressives tend to care about, and that tend to motivate people, and also just simply that should be the tasks of government now, and especially in 2024 and 2022, 2024, that have been postponed and postponed and postponed. So anyway, in my perception, I think that AOC's potential politically, and I don't think her potential has been realized. Her potential is higher than Bernie Sanders in terms of her political abilities, okay, and her abilities to make things happen. I think she has a sense of some of the more intangible issues that are confronting people now. I mean, so there's a little bit of an age issue there, and she's has an ability to turn negatives into positives, which is very, very important, because there's going to be lots of negatives. There already have been lots of negatives thrown at her, and she would continue to be facing those negatives, especially if she were to announce for a candidacy for president. So she has these abilities to turn negatives into positives, which is she's witty. She is, and Bernie Sanders is not without wit. I don't want to, but he's not as funny as she can be, and she is certainly she will be in terms of her demographic, in terms of her. I guess I'm going to have to mix in the age component into this as well. She will be a figure of identification for a broader set of age cohorts at age 35 than Bernie will be at age 83. So so that creates a potential for inspiring people, for motivating people, which is key for this president. Needs to be the mobilizer in chief, needs to be the organizer in chief, and we'll also need to assume that a Congress and let's say there is a wave of Democratic probably that candidacy, if it succeeded, would be a wave election of some kind, so that there would be a blue or a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House. There still would be large components of those House, that Democratic caucus in each of those bodies, that would not be on with the president. So the president would really have to create massive pressure on parts of the Democratic Party, which will still be very corporate and centrist, and really allied almost allied more with either obviously allied with big donors, but also allied even with Republicans who, by that point, I mean, at least if the same trajectory goes as has gone for the last 5-6 years with the Republican Party, they will be full neo-fascists. So, and now I don't expect Democrats to be full neo-fascists, but certainly they've shown a high tolerance for allowing neo-fascists to dictate policy. So anyway, so I think AOC has this higher potential, and I think she has a sense of sort of the hegemonic. There's a a concept from Antonio Gramsci, who talked about hegemony as this sort of system of kind of consent and of common sense that people have about the sort of the social contract writ large, that it can be rewritten in certain ways, and it's always favors this ruling group of some kind, and that you need to, according to Gramsci's political theory, you need to go to the core of those, and you need to propose an alternative hegemonic project that supplants the common sense of the old order and creates the new, for Gramsci, proletarian, and we assume also as a democratic socialist, both AOC and Bernie, we don't use the word proletarian anymore, but certainly working class and middle class based politics that is for the people. So using people as the category for that previously Gramsci might have used the word proletarian. So anyway, but the people being the basis, or the popular interests being the basis of this new hegemonic project, this new common sense. And that needs to be elaborated through politics. And I feel like, for instance, AOC just has a fresh take on, and I think she's capable of generating more. She talks about dignity, about living a dignified life. These are very, very key concepts that can be expanded almost in any different direction infinitely to create a politics that is solid, about solidarity, human solidarity, about egalitarianism, and also about freedom, and so it creates a whole possibilities for all kinds of speechifying. I mean, often politicians, the speeches they make are a large portion of their work. I mean, it's not the only thing. The writing of laws is obviously key, holding hearings, so forth and so on, especially as legislators. But and an executive of a president will need to staff an executive branch, and so there's a whole bureaucrat manager bureaucracy. So there's a lot of different jobs they have, but speech writing and a language, and creating that language is something that is very, very important, and I think AOC has advantages there. Now let's turn to Bernie and Bernie's advantages. So Bernie has run for president now twice, and he has a very solid record of focusing on, I would say, pocketbook issues and issues of billionaire money and oligarchy, you could say, in the United States, and also a lot of focus on healthcare, and he has been very good about climate. So he is not as dynamically. So in the category of AOC, I think AOC's championing of the Green New Deal is part of really. I think that is the big umbrella project for the progressive left. The Green New Deal is the tent in which we build Medicare for all, in which we build a job guarantee, in which we it's the new social contract. It is the hegemonic project, I think, that or can be made into the hegemonic project that is this for the people, and for really humanity to be able to survive. We need to be instituting a global Green New Deal. So anyway, so Bernie has been a very good champion of many climate causes, and he's tried to push the Biden administration, among other things, to be more through the Build Back Better agenda to be more ambitious in terms of climate and also in terms of social spending and social support. But I feel like now, and there are many people who have a very close attachment to Bernie, and they feel inspired by Bernie, and they trust Bernie, and I trust Bernie too, to a degree. But I feel like I was very angry at Bernie when he conceded to Biden in 2020, and I actually wrote him an email, which I'm quite sure he didn't read. But anyway, I don't have a personal relationship with him, but I think his conceding to Biden the way he did, and also him letting Biden off the hook, was a mistake. I understand why personally he was protecting himself and his own legacy in the Democratic Party by not damaging Biden, so that Biden couldn't then go on to face Trump. All these forces were arrayed against Bernie. I understand, and it was also during the pandemic, the pandemic was raging, and it was a very frightening time for the United States. So it was hard to mobilize the campaign that Bernie needed to really push forward. And he realized that his troops, he couldn't really go out and campaign because of fear of infecting other people or infecting themselves with COVID-19. So it was really a conjuncture of a number of different factors that created that made that concession possible. But I think, for instance, him calling Biden a friend, I mean, even if Biden is his friend, it felt like he was turning his back in a way on the base, and he was saying, well, I have this personal relationship with Biden, when everybody knows that Biden was on the wrong side of almost every issue for the last 40 years. And so he was not our friend. Okay. And so Bernie was playing a little bit of, elite politics. And I think some people maybe did recognize this, don't recognize it, but I felt like he was doing that in claiming that Biden was his friend. He could have conceded, I feel like, in a way that didn't give away so much power to Biden, and so that was politically a disappointment for me, so I think he seems a little. He's stolid. Okay, he's predictable. He is safe even though he's considered to be this danger by the centrist and the media elite. They organized themselves in 2020 when he looked like he had a chance. In 2020, Barack Obama got on the phone and he got people to drop out. So it was all about defeating Bernie. It was nothing else. Nothing else seemed to matter to the Washington elites and to the Democratic elites, in particular Democratic Party elites. So, he's treated as very dangerous, but he's not really the firebrand that the media make him out to be. He is. I would like him to be more of a firebrand in a way, And AOC is also not exactly the firebrand that I would like her to be. But she has, um, I feel like she has more potential to surprise on the upside than Bernie does. And um, so I think, I would be more in favor of her running. I think as a compromise, um, I think that they could both run before the voting started and see how it went, and then consolidate around one or the other. Okay, but I wouldn't want AOC to not try to run because Bernie said he would. And I really am, what I'm arguing against here, really, with this video and also with the other video about AOC running, against this coronation culture in the Democratic Party, even among Bernie supporters, that in a way, this kind of treating politicians as somehow holy people and as kind of secular saints, when they are really there to do things for you, and you need to and also lead you and also inspire you. But there's in a way in which I think Bernie acts in a way as a security blanket for some progressives, and and now again, I hope if AOC doesn't run and Bernie runs and Bernie wins, it'd be great. It'd be better than not. Okay, and so I'm putting that out there, but I think Bernie would need to grow as a politician to really win, and he just can't repeat 2016 and 2020, and he has to be more fiery, I think, and more threatening, and also be. I felt like he was protecting his status as a senator and as a senior member of the Senate Budget Committee, and so he had all these privileges that he's granted as a senior member of the Democratic caucus, though not a Democrat. That he would need to throw to the wind to really win. Okay. And to say, I don't care. I literally don't care what happens. I feel like AOC, she has in a way less to lose because she doesn't have the seniority in Congress that Sanders has in the Senate. So that gives her an attitude, I think, that is key to trying to win the presidency, especially in an era of populism, when people are saying government service is often corrupting, and it is often corrupting. I think we need a much more of a culture of good government service, and I don't think it should be a disqualifier that someone spent 20 or 30 years in Congress. But in the Congress that we have, with the exception of Bernie, who's been wonderful in carving out his niche, but still, it's if he's holding on to that niche while running for president, that's a problem. So and I think that AOC would not have that so much of a problem there in saying, so what if I lose my committee chairmanships, or she won't be a committee chairman at that point, but my committee assignments, if I run or I get punished. It's like, I am doing this to push these issues and to make and anyway, as I was making the case I believe in the last episode when I discussed this about AOC, she could be making the case on the trail that she's doing this also for her district. She's also, she's not spending all her time on her district's business, but she couldn't neglect that while she was campaigning, but still, that she could say, look, I am raising these issues as a presidential candidate that will benefit my win or lose, benefit my district in Queens and the Bronx. So anyway, so I'm putting this out there, and and I'm hoping that people use it as food for thought. Um, and also, please share your comments and your thoughts about this presentation. I'm quite sure I missed some issues. Oh, I just wanted to address, though, the negatives that are thrown at. Now, Bernie has been kept uh, at bay by the whole Democratic establishment and by the media, by a combination of being ignored, by being treated condescendingly, by treated as being a demonic presence of some kind, or a taboo, let's say, of some kind. And AOC has been treated to some of those things, but also, I mean, she is an object, a hate object for the right. So she really has been, more so than Bernie, gotten this gale of GALE, gale of negative attention and of prurient attention, of sexualized attention, and mostly by the right wing, and she's done a fairly good job in combating it, but it's still very disturbing and very hard to deal with for an individual and for a congresswoman. And it's also, something that people might, looking on the outside, saying, well, they'll hold it against her. It's saying, well, she can't, if she's being, demonized, how could she ever win a populist agenda? And she would need to, I guess this is also, there are two different things here. There's the negatives, and also she would need, as a representative of a very urban district, a Latina, that she would need to go on listening tours and to rural areas, and which some is something that Bernie already has. So that's something that Bernie has, this sort of something of an urban rural coalition there. And AOC is more on the urban suburban side, okay? And so she would need to make efforts to really, which is something that probably she doesn't particularly maybe like, the idea of going on a quote unquote listening tour or whatever, or just doing that sort of thing. She would probably want to do that in the context of some, political action, like, against the pipeline, or for the Green New Deal or something. And she could potentially engineer it that way in the court, but she would need to do it very quickly. But she would need to create a political appeal that is universalizing in a way that she has. And I think I mentioned this in the other episode about her candidacy. She would need to create a discourse that was inviting and not exclusionary, and didn't use some of the sort of college left or urban left, woke, I'm sorry to use that word, but or with the principles, with the ideals of that, and with all of the substance of it, but just creating a language that doesn't erect an exclusion for someone to, in other words, to use words and phrases and that make people feel in Iowa or not even, or Minnesota, or Nebraska, or Nevada, they don't feel like there's a barrier been erected by her, that she is open to them, that she has she invites everybody in to so to speak to her, and to also to listen to, and so forth and so on, even as she has her own identity, her own perspective. And so anyway, I think that's a lot of work there. There's a lot of reshaping, and that would be a very, very hard thing to do. I don't envy her that work. I mean, I would love to be helpful to her if this episode, whatever. I mean, I think she's has a lot of potential as a politician, and as an activist and a caring person. So, but anyway, I think that I think it's a lot to ask of someone to be able to do that, but you know, I think we live in unusual times, or in crisis times, in triple, quadruple crisis times that require people to rise to the crisis. So anyway, I think I need to just sort of stop here, and maybe to be continued in a future episode. But please share your thoughts in the comments. And also, if you like this video, please like. And also, if you're enjoying Politics 2100 in general, please subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.